Vraja-mandala Parikrama, and we've woken up this morning in the wonderful township of Giriraj, Govardhan. It's an amazing phenomena, but whenever we reach Govardhan, there's always continual music, festivity. There's a sort of a mood in the township itself, and it's not abrasive as is somewhere in parts of India, but it's very sweet. Always melodies are being chanted, kirtans are being performed, etc. So today we're going on the big parikrama. That means we're heading south around through Anior and Puri and Jetipur. And generally it takes about perhaps 3.5 hours to walk around. There's many places on the way, maybe 15, 20 places to cover. So we'll be going at a good space, good pace, and yes, it'll be a very wonderful parikrama, I'm sure. Okay, so now we'll have our kirtan.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya
Radhikaya Priyatmane
Sri Srimati Vedanta Narayaniti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vasyajate Shakarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Gaurashtaya Bhutale Sri Madhavendra Bhajana Keshava iti namine Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Sara Swami Namine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Bhakta-vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Munindra Vrinda Vandite Tilokasottare
Prasthana Ekunda Bhuvirase Rajendra Bhanu Nandini Rajendra Sonu Sangate Kadakarishya Sriramam Vipakataksha Bhajanam Ashoka Vriksha Vallari Vitanamanda Pasite Prabhala Vala Pallava Prabhalinam Vipomare Paramaya Spuratare Prabhuta Sampadayane Kadakarishya Sriramam Vipakataksha Bhajanam Mangala Prasanga Bangura Bhuvam Sari Brahmam Sasambramam Viganta Pata Patamai Nirantaram Vashikrita Pratiti Nandanandane Kadakarishya Sriramam Vipakataksha Bhajanam Chantika Pradipta Gaura Vigrahe Mukha Prabhaparasya Jyoti Saratendu Mandale Vichitra Chitra Sanchara Chakora Saravalochane Kadakarishya Sriramam Vipakataksha Bhajanam Shanti Yogane Pramodamana Mandite Priyanuraga Rangite Kalalila Sakamite Ananya Jana Kunjara Jagama Keli Govide Kadakarishya Sriramam Vipakataksha Bhajanam Bhavadira Hira Bushite Prabhuta Sata Kunda 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 Sustari Shastra Manga Hasya Chala Purna Sotya Sagare Kadakarishya Sriramam Vipakataksha Bhajanam Vallari Taranga Ranga Dorlande Latarvalasya Lolali Lalochana Balokane Lalalulangi Langano Javoga Mohanashrite Kadakarishya Sriramam Vipakataksha Bhajanam Malikanshita Trileka Kambukam Saye Trisutra Mangalijuna Triratna Vidhiti Karola Nila Puntala Prasuna Puja Kampite Kadakarishya Sriramam Vipakataksha Bhajanam Shameshwari Pramodachananeshwari Rajeshwari Rajadite Viradite Namostute Iti Mama Bhutam Sava Nishabhavanunandini Karoti Sankatam Janam Vipadakshavajana Samyakadaiva Sanchita Trirupacharanasanam Bhavetama Bhavendasi Numandava Bhaveshana Sriyamam Vipadakshavajana Charuvaktramandalam Sukarnaratnakundalam Sucharchitanga Chandanam Namani Nandanandanam Sudirganetra Pankajam Shikishikandamodajam Anangatoti Mohanam Namani Nandanandanam Sunasiddharamoktikam Swachandatandapantikam Navambudam Govinda Navami Nandanandanam Karenu Venu Ranjitam Gati Ranjitam Dukula Pita Shovanam Namani Nandanandanam Deha Sundaram Nakaduti Sudakaram Ahuryaratnabhusanam Namami Nandanandanam Sugandha Anga Saurabham Puro Virajitostubham Rajshrivatsalam Namami Nandanandanam Sunagaram Vilasanugavasasam Surendra Dharmamoshanam Namami Nandanandanam Pratyangana Sunayakam Sada Sutavarayakam Namami Nandanandanam Nandanandanastatam Pratedya Shradhayam Vita Taretvam Hinduswaram Lavetaram Viyottam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Haribo 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 Tai Gaura Haribo Tai Gaura Haribo 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 Haribo
Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Jai Shishi Guru Garanga Ganhavika Giridhari, Radha Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai. Jai Radha Govinda Ju Ki Jai. Jai Radha Gopinath Ju Ki Jai. Jai Nityananda Rai Ki Jai. Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimat Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarzara Shishimat Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarzara Shishimat Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarzara Shishimat Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Paramahamsa Mahabhagavat Shila Gaura Kishodas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Saptam Goswami Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Shila Baladev Vidibhushan Gaudi Bharantaracharya Ki Jai. Jai Shila Vishnath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Traya Ki Jai. Jai Shila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai. Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Shri Bhata Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhata Das Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu's Ki Jai. Jai Swarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Gauda Parsada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikha Holsi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Jamuna Ki Jai. Brihat Mridanga Ki Jai. Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Nam Bhajan Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Ki Jai, Nishingadev Bhagavan Ki Jai, Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai, Gopishwa Mahadev Ki Jai, Purnamasi Devi Yogamaya Maharani Ki Jai, Antadvip Mayapur Simantadvip Gotandvip Madhvip Koladvip Rizadvip Janadvip Modandvip Rudvip Aganavadvip Dham Ki Jai, Bandiravan, Badravan, Bailvan, Lohavan, Mahavan, Madhuvan, Talvan, Kamudvan, Rahulavan, Vrindavan, Kadiavan, Kamyavan, Vraja-mandala Ki Jai, Urja Brat Ki Jai, Damodar Brat Ki Jai, Niyama Seva Ki Jai, Chatumasya Brat Ki Jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Om Aginati Mirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmaya Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Prabhajantamana Paityam Apaitikrityam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tamayatayo Tarabo Vinedustam Sarvabhutam Muni Muni Hiri Anatoshmi Bhaktya Vihina Aparara Lakshay Shiptas Chakarmadi Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapana Brinde Namaste Charanaravindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Paradram Tato Mamanasti Katyana Kapi Anapita Chirim Chirat Kuruna Vadino Kalo Samarapaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam Haripurata Sundarata Dikatam Vasadipita Sudahridare Kandare Spadatu Vasachinandanaha Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Rate Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam. I'm first of all offering millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarazara Shishimat, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again millions of times unto the lotus feet of my beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and unto all our illustrious Rupanuga Guru Vargya, my Dandavat Pranams, and all the Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat Pranams to all of you. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhavevacha patitanam pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namaha. So today is a special day. It's a wonderful day. It's a long day, and we'll be heading out on the parikrama of Giriraj Govardhan. Tomorrow, we're going to celebrate Dipavali. Tomorrow, we're going to celebrate Dipavali here. I think in Delhi, perhaps it's being celebrated today, but here, Kali Puja is celebrated today. You might hear many crackers going off during our class. They might even start their horrific music, or not music, sound, not even sound, noise. Yes, they might start that. So they're celebrating Kali Devi. But we're going to head out. We can imagine that we're staying in our Giridhari Gaudiya Math because it's most simple to appreciate the journey from there. So from Giridhari Gaudiya Math, we come into the, it's not really the center of the township, but it's the junction where the Parikrama road comes down. It's a square place. 4 roads meeting. On the other side of the road is Manasi Ganga, and it's a little open space, and there's flower sellers there and so on. And we cross over that space because, first of all, we always have to honor Haridev. We can never ever think to do a parikrama without, first of all, taking shelter of Haridev. Absolutely essential. We have to go and offer our full respects and beg for Haridev, for his mercy, to carry us around his Giriraj, his mountain. So we come to Haridev. It's a very ancient, large structure, and it was much larger. It had 3 extra floors on it, but Aurangzeb took them down. So again, it's just been reduced. But we come inside this we go up steep steps, and it's just up behind, we have Manasi Ganga, and then adjacent to Manasi Ganga, up a little street, is Haridev. So we come in there and we offer our Dandavat Pranams to Haridev. Haridev is like we call it a bas relief, when it's just like a part of the body carved into the stone, into the stonework rather. And he's very beautiful form. And he looks exactly like a 6 or 7-year-old young boy. And he's very, very beautiful. And this was the form that manifested to the gopis when they were feeling great separation from Krishna. He manifested in this particular form. So we offer our pranam to Haridev and beg him for an auspicious or for a successful parikrama. And then we come out. I won't speak about Haridev much because tomorrow we're going to do this parikrama inside. We're going to go to Haridev, Brahma Kund, Manasi Ganga, Manasi Devi, and then we're going to go Chakaleshwara, Mahadev, all the different places around in that small parikrama. But today we're just going to offer to Haridev, get his kripa, and then we're going to come back out again onto the main parikrama trail, and then we'll offer our full dandavats, and then we'll begin our parikrama from there, walking through, and we'll walk through to the main street of the marketplace of the township of Govardhan. We walk up a little bit, and then we'll take a left turn, which takes us down into Dan Ghati. There's usually a barricade stopping all cars and traffics going through. Today it will be very crowded because today it's Dipavali, tomorrow or today. Sometimes they celebrate for 2. On our parikrama, we would celebrate 3 days or 4 days this Dipavali. We would start going every evening with the lamps to Manasi Ganga, and we would continue that for 3 or 4 days doing that beautiful ceremony. So it's going to be very crowded. So we come up to that left-hand turn, and then we go down a little bit and then we take a sharp right into a little space, and this is Dan Ghati. Originally, Giriraj, there was only one pathway to cut across Giriraj. If you were coming from, like Radharani, if she was coming from Varshana or from Javat, she would have to come through this same particular gully that we're going to be walking through today. There's only one gully that goes through, a natural gully. Now they've built a road right across Govardhan. So the whole dynamic has actually changed. But originally, there was only this one Ghati, this one gully to come through from the other side to, if you wanted to come to Govinda Kund. So in this very beautiful place, there's a most wonderful pastime because it's a natural gully like I just described. And there Krishna, he knew that the gopis would be coming on this particular day. Bhaguri Rishi, he was holding a yagya to glorify Krishna, the Supreme Lord, in Govinda Kund. And all the local residents, they were all bringing their butter and their milk and their ghee and all their products across to support that yagya. So naturally the gopis, they were also bringing all their ladus, their mishri and ghee, etc., across from Varshana, and from Nandagaon also gopis would come. So Krishna, he set up a toll gate, and he declared himself, when the gopis came through, that he was the king of Braj. And Lalita Devi immediately started laughing. Oh, how come you're the king of Braj? Who gave you that kingship? My Swamini, she's the queen of Braj, and you're not married to her. Krishna says, no, I'm married to Vrinda Devi, and Vrinda Devi gave me the kingship of Braj. Vrinda Devi is the queen of Braj. So by being married to the queen, that makes me the king. And Lalita Sakhi, she laughed. And she said, oh, Vrinda Devi is right here. Vrinda Devi, do you know this person? And Vrinda Devi said, this black person? No, he's not my husband. Definitely not my husband. I am the queen of Braj, but I've given my queenship over to Shrimati Radhika. So then all the Sakhis began to laugh, and the cowherd boys, because there was thousands of cowherd boys supporting Krishna in his bid to rob or to tax the gopis of all their milk products. And then a very beautiful, loving quarrel takes place, that Krishna is demanding all different types of taxes, and the gopis are just the gopis love any interaction with Krishna. So in this mood of this loving argument, this is very sweet for both parties. Both parties are very happy doing this. And when Madhu Mangal realizes that they're carrying ladus, then his lips start to water, and he's very desirous of tasting those ladus. So then they're taxed all sorts of amounts of their various milk products. And the gopis initially are objecting. It's a very long, beautiful pastime. Rupa Goswami describes it in his Dan Keli Kamuda, or the Dan Keli Chintamani. Raghunath Das also describes this pastime, Dan Keli Kamuda or Dan Keli Chintamani. Both of these books describe this pastime, where Krishna taxes the beautiful Brajabasi gopis. And eventually, the gopis, they have no choice, because Krishna is adamant, and all his sakhas are there. They've all got sticks, and the gopis aren't about to fight them. So they give some tax. They give part. They want to give their tax to the cowherd boys. They have a desire to do that. So in the end, they give that tax to Krishna. They are compromised with that. But then the very next day, all the gopis, they all conspire together and decide, we're going to get Krishna back for this. So just a little bit further on our journey, when we've taken we've offered pranam to Dan Ghati. I've said it very, very brief because we have a lot of places to go to. So I've described it very briefly. We come out of Dan Ghati and we go a few hundred yards. There's a beautiful red Hanuman that's right on the side of the road there that perhaps many of you will remember. So we can offer respects to Hanuman as we go past. But then we come to the next Kund. It's called Dan Nivartan Kund. And this is where all the gopis, they got Krishna back for his mischief of robbing them of their foodstuffs. And all the gopis, they hid all around Dan Nivartan Kund. It's a beautiful Kund today, especially just after the rainy season. If it gets filled up, it's a very attractive Kund. And we come here, and on this particular day, the gopis arranged for 2 or 3 or 4 gopis to be there with pots on their heads. And when they were there, immediately the cowherd boys came from Krishna and were demanding taxes from them. And as soon as the cowherd boys came, the gopis, they made a sound, they whistled very loudly. And then thousands and thousands of gopis appeared out of the forest area, and they grabbed all the cowherd boys, and they grabbed Krishna. And they tie Krishna, his seeker, they tie it to a tree. They dress him like a gopi. They've done this a few times before. They're going to do it in Sankari Kaur. They do the same pastime where they dress him up as a gopi, and they put a clay pot of yogurt on his head, and then Lalita or another Saki, they throw a rock at that clay pot, and the yogurt breaks, and the yogurt comes all over Krishna. So they chastise Krishna strongly and let him know that they're not just going to be pushed around like this, that they also have their strength, etc. So this is a very, very beautiful pastime, a Dan Nivartan Kund. So this is just below, on the way south on our Parikrama trail, after Dan Ghati. So we've been to Dan Ghati. Very briefly, I described a little bit of that pastime, and Dan Nivartan Kund. So now we keep going. We've got about 9.5 miles to walk today. So we're keeping up a reasonable sort of pace with our walking. It's actually very soft sand on the side where you can walk, so it's not harmful for the feet, etc. So then we come through after Dan Nivartan Kund, we walk a little bit, and then we come to a side road where we can walk through on just sand, separate from the sealed road. And this brings us into a very close darshan of Giriraj. We're practically right there. We can practically touch him, and we can see his beauty. We can sense his potency, and we're meditating, of course, on his amazing pastimes that he's performed here in Giriraj. Has come from the spiritual world. He's come with Radharani. He's come with all the entourage into Govardhan, into Vrindavan. Without Giriraj, then Vrindavan is not complete at all. It's described that Giriraj is like the beautiful, glorious tilak on the face of Vrindavan Dham. And then we walk along a little area, a little ways, and then we come back in onto the sealed road, and we come into the beautiful village of Anore or Anior. This is one of the most potent villages in the world, and yet it seems it has such a humble exterior. They only have tiny, tiny little window shops. You'll see just a few vegetables for sale, etc. It has never been manifested as a township or anything, even after all these thousands of years of pilgrims visiting it. It's still a very small rustic village. So we come through this village, and we come to a large open area where we can all sit down and we can hear the glories of Giriraj Govardhan and Krishna saving the Brijvasis from the storm that Indra threw up to attempt to chastise them. So we understand the pastime that Nanda Baba and all the Gopas, they're all preparing very wonderful preparations and arrangements to worship Indradev. Every year they worship Indradev. This is their tradition. and the sacrificial arena is being prepared, etc. And all the Brahmins are there preparing. And Krishna, he comes and he sits on his father's lap, and he asks his father to please explain the nature of this yajna and what he's doing. So Nanda Baba initially is thinking that Krishna is just a little boy, and he just tries to say things very simply, but Krishna is asking more and more detailed information. So eventually Nanda Baba, he starts to explain very deeply that the Brijbasis, they feel indebted to the rains that Indradev supplies to feed their millions of cows and to sustain their lives, because their lives are supported, maintained by the cows. So they honor Indradev with this yajna of oblations of ghee, etc., and mantras. And then Krishna, he is understanding that Indradev has become very proud, and he needs to be chastised. He needs to be humbled from his high pride. So he explains to his father that you don't need, he actually starts to explain the path of Karma Kanda. This is what he's explaining. It's like not the path of bhakti or devotion, but he's explaining this path of karma kand so beautifully that all the gopas and Nanda Baba can appreciate what he's saying. He's saying, well, the rains fall everywhere. Indra, the rains fall on the ocean. The rains fall in the forest where no one is really utilizing them, etc. So it's not just because you do a yajna that you're going to get the rains here. There's no need to actually do this yajna to Indradev. And Krishna proposes that instead we should serve Giriraj. Giriraj is our sustainer. Giriraj gives us shade in the summer. He gives us beautiful trees. There's beautiful fruits. There's beautiful lakes. There's beautiful rivers. There's beautiful caves. There's all, and grasses for the cows. There's so much nourishment. This Vardhan means to nourish. So Govardhan is nourishing all of the cows and the gopas, also the people, the Brijbasis. So Krishna presents such a beautiful explanation that Nanda Baba and all the Gopas are ready to break with their hundreds and thousands of years tradition and not worship Indra, but instead worship Giriraj. And Krishna becomes very pleased. And then they inquire from Krishna, well, how shall we do this? And Krishna says, well, we should all hook our wagons up, etc. And we should all dress very festively and nice. All the musicians should come. We should have the cows in front, and we should beautifully have a procession all around Govardhan, celebrating and glorifying the speciality of Giriraj Maharaj, Giriraj Govardhan. So Nanda Baba and the Gopas, they like this idea, right? It makes sense to them because it's got the cows in the forefront. And then it's described that they all follow what Krishna is saying. And they all decorate themselves very nicely. And then they begin procession all around Govardhan. It's described in Ananda Vrindavan Champu, when this beautiful festive procession was going on with lots of musical instruments and sound and singing, etc. It gave Indradev a headache. He was in Swagaloka, and he was realizing they're not performing my yajna. They're performing the yajna for this mountain. I've chopped all the wings off the mountain. I am supreme, Indra is thinking. And when he heard this kirtan of all the Brijbasis, it's described that he had to call the Ashwini Kumars, who are the doctors in the heavenly world, to cure his headache, because this music was giving him a headache. So Indradev, he's becoming very angry. And then the gopas and the gopis and the cows, etc., they proceed uninhibited around with this beautiful festive offering towards Govardhan. And then they come back, they circumambulate around from this village of Anior, where we are now. They go right around the whole of Giriraj. And of course, it was much bigger 5,000 years ago than it is today. But nevertheless, they were also much bigger. So it would probably have taken them a few hours to circumambulate with all the cows. Then they come back to this place, and then they begin to offer all the offerings to Giriraj directly. This is what Krishna has instructed them to do. And they bring, it's actually described that they make the various kunds filled with sweet rice. They make kusum sarovar, the water there, so sweet and scented. They bring mountains of samosas and halava and rice and everything to, they're very generous hearted, and they're serving Giriraj. And Giriraj wants to reciprocate. Krishna manifests a form of Giriraj coming out of the mountain, a huge four-armed form coming out. Krishna and Balaram are sitting with the Brijbasis watching, but this manifestation of Giriraj comes from behind the mountain with four arms, and he starts taking, and all the boga that's been offered to him, he's taking it all in huge quantities with all his four arms. He's drinking all the water from Manasi Ganga. He's drinking all the water from Kusum Sarovar. He's taking everything, and he's asking for more. Anore, 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 give me more, bring me more. Brijbasis are running back. They're bringing all of their stock of all their milk products, everything they're offering. Finally, they have nothing left. And one Brahmin, because the Brijbasis become unhappy now because they don't have anything more to offer. So a Brahmin comes with a beautiful bush of tulsi, and he offers this tulsi to Giriraj. And then Giriraj says, Triptomi, Triptosmi, Triptosmi. Now I'm satisfied. Now I'm satisfied. And all the Brijbasis, including Krishna and Balaram, they offer their Dandavat pranams to Giriraj Maharaj. So they're all seeing Giri Maharaj. And Krishna is saying, did ever Indra show himself when you offered in the yajna? Did you ever see Indra? But here is our Giriraj Maharaj, who's protecting us and nourishing us. He's reciprocating with us directly. This is very wonderful. So this really inspired the faith of all the Brijbasis, knowing that Giriraj was their protector and nourisher, maintainer, not Indra. So this was a very beautiful festival for all the Brijbasis. We can imagine, with so much preparations, etc., such joy and festivity. So this was like the first Anukut festival, in fact, to Giriraj. And then Indra, he has all his spies who are reporting back to him, telling him that not only didn't they worship him, but they put all the items for worship into Giriraj. So then Indradev becomes incensed with anger, and he calls these clouds of destruction, the Samabata clouds, they're tied with ropes of wind, and they undo those ropes of wind, and these black, dense clouds of the time of the Pralaya, they inundate the whole of Braj. And then Indra comes through with his thunderbolt weapon, his lightning bolt, and they begin, this torrential rain begins to fall all over the residence. This is after the festival. This is like the next day. And the cows, the little calves, are sheltering underneath the cows because the rain, it's described, is coming down in columns like pillars. Huge columns of rain are pouring down. These are the waters for the devastation that have been unleashed on this little village of Vrindavan. So we should understand the intention of Indra here was very, very sinful. He wanted to murder all the residents of Vrindavan. That's what he was attempting to do, all the Brijbasis. And immediately the Brijbasis, they turned to Krishna to help us in this trouble, this danger. So Krishna is described, he was standing under some shelter, and he ran very quickly to Giriraj. And then it's described how just in an instant, he picks Giriraj up. Giriraj is a huge, we described yesterday, his original length was 64 kilometers. That's his original length. But now, of course, much time has passed, and he was cursed by the curse of Palastya Rishi to shrink one mustard seed or one sesame seed every day. So he shrunk down to a much smaller version of his original size. And Krishna, he just in a moment picks up this colossal mountain on the left hand, his left little finger. And Jiva Goswami describes that when he lifts up, he's standing on a mound himself, on like a rock, and he's holding up. And all around, Jiva Goswami describes, is like a whole village arrangement of beautiful soft beds, beautiful places for all the cows. There's all fresh water there for them. All facility to accommodate the entire village of Braj is already manifest underneath Giriraj Govardhan. So when the residents see Krishna do like this, of course, initially they're hesitant. And then Krishna has to encourage them. No, he's not going to fall down, definitely. You come under quickly. So after some coaching, then the Brijbasis, Krishna's directing them, you bring the cows and the calves and lead them under here. There are cow pens here where they can stay. There's all shelter for them. Then the Brijbasis, they all come in also. And all of the Brijbasis are now underneath Giriraj Govardhan. And not a single drop of water is coming in. It's not coming into that sort of valley that's been produced by Giriraj being lifted up, because the sides of the hill on the ground, they've risen up to protect any water from coming in. So no water can actually come inside. There's not a single drop that's coming inside. And then it's described because Indra has his spies the whole time, reporting to him and telling him what's happening. And then all the Brijbasis, they are in ecstasy, because all the Brijbasis want to do with their entire lives is gaze at Krishna. This is actually all they want to do with their time. They don't want to do anything else, especially the gopis. So with unblinking eyes for 7 days, which it's described for them feels like about 20 minutes. They're just gazing at the beautiful lotus-like face of Krishna. And they're having a complete festival, again, of music and sound. They're all chanting, they're all singing, and they're having a most beautiful festival, gorgeous festival, celebrating the beauty of Krishna's lotus-like face. It's described that Mother Yashoda, she becomes unhappy that her son is doing such a strenuous act, and she starts to massage his arm. She tries to give him some makhan and everything, and Krishna is tolerating everything. And there's a one single point where he looks at the gopis for a moment and he begins to tremble a little bit. And then Baladev, he swings him a glance. Don't look to the gopis, because this will not be good for you can't absorb that. But Srimati Radharani, she's telling Giriraj, if you drop even a centimeter, I'm going to incinerate you. So I was describing yesterday the nature of Shakti. So it's actually Shakti that has produced the potency to lift Giriraj. The Brijbasis, this is still Naralila. Now this is what we have to understand deeply. This is called human-like pastimes. A little 7-year-old boy lifting up a mountain. How can that be human-like pastimes? It is human-like pastimes because none of the Brijbasis think that Krishna is lifting up Govardhan. They all think, because Nanda Baba has his stick there, and all the Brijbasis think this is the mercy of Lord Narayan on Nanda Baba, that he's holding up Giriraj. And all the Sakhas, they also got their sticks, and they're also holding up. So they're not actually thinking that Krishna is doing this. They're not thinking Krishna is exclusively. This is why it's a human-like pastime. There's no Aishwarya whatsoever exhibited in Braj. There's all types of Aishwarya activities like Putana, etc. But the residents don't perceive it that way. Their vision is covered constantly out of their love and affection for Krishna. He's just a little boy. How can he possibly hold up Govardhan Hill? Mother Yashoda is convinced that it's her prayers to Lord Narayan. Or they're thinking that Giriraj has suddenly sprouted some wings and he's actually flying above like that. But one thing they are convinced of is their deep, deep relationship with Giriraj. How friendly, because they just worshipped him the day before, And now he's protecting him in this time of devastation that they're experiencing. So Indra, he's pouring down these thunderbolts, etc. And it's described that Sudarshan Chakra is whirling around above Giriraj. And this is the reason why no water from outside is allowed to enter, because all that water is evaporating before it has a chance to, because Sudarshan Chakra is spinning around. Also, the Trishul of Shivji is also spinning, and that Trishul is counteracting all of Indra's thunderbolt weapons that are coming towards Giriraj. Giriraj is not inconvenienced one little bit. There's even animals, lions and tigers on the top, deer on the top of Govardhan. They're not slightly in, not even a single ant is inconvenienced by all this rain. So this incredible festival, it's just a phenomenal pastime that Krishna arranges for the celebration and beauty of the Brijabasis being able to observe him for 7 days and 7 nights, and amongst song and festivity, etc. And after 7 days, Indra starts to realize, perhaps I've done something wrong here. He suddenly realizes that he's not making the slightest dent or impression in the Brijvasis' lives at all. Actually, what is being happened is that Vrindavan is being totally cleansed by all this rain for Krishna's future pastimes, because the Ras Leela is going to occur after this. The Ras Leela hasn't occurred yet. The gopis are still holding that mood of Purvarag, that anticipation of love. That hasn't manifested yet. So everything is being cleansed beautifully for Krishna's exceptional Ras Leela pastimes that will take place very soon after this. So then when Indra starts to realize what he's done, when he starts to wake up to the fact that this cannot be an ordinary boy, this must be the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, something dawns on him and he realizes, already Indra, he knows about Vishnu, because the Devas, they many times they have to call Vishnu to help them out dealing with the demons. And when Vishnu comes, they're all very much honoring him, etc. But as soon as he leaves, they just forget about him altogether. This is their nature. They're not like devotees of Vishnu, rendering seva to him like that. Only when they want something, particularly to defend them against the demons. And Krishna will always come. Like Vamanadev, he comes. Like so many different, like Nrsingadev, Varahadev, they all come, these personalities. But the Devas don't sustain their worship of these personalities. They just are grateful that these personalities have helped them in their time of distress. But as soon as they've got what they wanted, then they go away. But now Indra is realizing this must be that same original Vishnu. He doesn't really know that he's Brajendra Nandan Shyam Sundar. The Devas, they have such important posts to maintain the movements of this universe. Vayudev, etc., Agni-dev, Surya-dev, they have huge, what do you call, folios, portfolio to maintain. They are the maintainers of the universe externally. And with that maintenance comes a tremendous amount of Aishwarya Bhav. It's all in Aishwarya. So they can't remotely understand the speciality of Krishna's Madhurya, especially in Vrindavan. They were like Lord Brahma. We heard in Vatsavan, he's completely like bewildered by Krishna. The Devas are completely bewildered by Krishna. In every single instance, we've talked about the Devas many times. They're afraid of the demons, of Aghasura, etc., of Kaliya. I described how they have to manifest earthquakes and so on. Remember, I was telling about that. So the Devas, they don't know who is Krishna, but now Indra is starting to realize that this must be that Supreme Lord. And for a period of time, he appreciates this fact, and he tells the rain clouds to all stop now, to the thunder and lightning, etc., to stop. And it was such a horrific storm. We can't imagine the blackness of the sky and the huge inundation of water that Indra really tried to kill every single resident in Vrindavan, all of them, but he didn't succeed in any of them. So when he realizes his mistake and realizes this person is far, far, far more powerful than me, then he comes down, then he stops all the rain. And the Surya Dev comes out and everything, immediately all the inundation goes down, immediately. And when Krishna realizes that all the rain has stopped, the inundation has stopped, everything's become gentle and quiet again, then he tells the Brijbasis, now you can all leave. Now Indra has stopped the rain. Now you can all leave. So they have the cows in front of them and they all leave. Can you imagine millions and millions of cows underneath this mountain? I mean, that must have been such a pastime for Krishna to perform. And at the same time, it's still contained within the Nara Lila. This is very important to appreciate. It's not Aishwarya because the residents are not seeing it as Aishwarya. If they saw it as Aishwarya, then it would be Aishwarya, but they don't see it like that. So then all the cows come out, the cowherd boys, the gopis, the gopas, etc. They all come out and they find that all the flooding and everything has all completely gone away and everything is beautiful and verdant and green. Everything is very fresh and beautiful. It's all being cleansed by these rains. And then their houses are completely intact. They go back, everything is perfect. And then the next day, Krishna decides to give an opportunity to Indradev to beg his forgiveness because he knows that Indradev now wants to be forgiven. So Krishna, he begins walking on the top of Govardhan with the excuse, he tells the Sakhas, I'm just going alone, I'm just going to check out if there was any damage on the top of Govardhan last night. So he goes and he's walking on the top of Govardhan. At that time, Indra Dev, he comes with all the other Deva, but he comes principally with Surabhi Devi because he has become very afraid now. And he asks Lord Brahma, how can I be forgiven for this tremendous aparad I did? He realizes now that he tried to actually interrupt the Supreme Personality of Godhead's pastimes in Vrindavan. So he's very afraid because in the higher planets, if you commit the slightest little deviation, then you just become cursed. Regularly, we're hearing all these different demons, all these different curses, etc. So Indra is very afraid. So Lord Brahma, he advises him, go take Surabhi Devi. Krishna loves the cows. You take Surabhi Devi with you and she will intercede with Krishna. So when Krishna sees Surabhi Devi coming, this is the Surabhi Devi from the celestial world. This is not Surabhi Devi from the spiritual world. This is the Surabhi Devi that the first manifestation that came from the churning of the ocean of milk was Surabhi Devi. So that's the manifestation of the full spiritual Surabhi Devi. There is the full spiritual personality and there's the manifestation of her in this world. So it's the manifestation of her in this world that comes with Indra. And they very beautifully offer prayers to Krishna, begging his forgiveness. And Krishna, he's sitting on a rock and he's just simply accepting these prayers. He's not actually making any sort of connection particularly with them, really at all. He's just sitting there and he's accepting these homages. But he has great affection for Surabhi Devi, so he tolerates Indra. And then Indra declares that he wants to perform an abhishek of Krishna at that time. So they perform a beautiful, all the Devas come at this time. Lord Brahma comes, Agni Dev, Surya Dev, all the Devas, Lord Shivji, all the Devas come and they perform a beautiful, incredibly opulent abhishek of Krishna, who's just sitting on a rock and they're pouring milk on him, decorating him with beautiful cloth and chanting so many mantras. There's a very lengthy description of this opulent abhishek that they're performing for Krishna. But then at one point, the Sakas, they're walking in a valley below and they're perceiving on the top of Govardhan these shining beings. And they're wondering what's happening up there. And Madhu Mangal, he says very knowledgeably, oh, these are the demigods. And they've probably come to do some business on the top of Giriraj. They're not sure what they're doing. They can't see. But Krishna, he's aware that the Sakhas are down below. And then the Devas, they also become aware that the Sakhas are coming in this same proximity. So the Devas, they become afraid because they don't want to interrupt anymore Krishna's pastimes. So they all jump behind the clouds. And then the Sakhas, they come, and all the various enormous heavenly paraphernalia that's been used in the Abhishek is just left lying around. These 1,000-wick ghee lamps, huge chamaras and conches, and so much opulence that they were using in this Abhishek. And the boys, they come and they pick up all these objects and they start play acting. But this time, Krishna, he's laughing, he's joking, he's looking, and the demigods are thinking, when we were doing it with Krishna, he was just really hardly even looking at us, just completely blank, really serious. But now all these Sakhas are performing this Abhishek. They're all Krishna's completely in ecstasy at this. He's reciprocating with all of them. So they perform this beautiful activity. But at this time, Krishna is declared by Indra to be the Govinda, to be the maintainer, the official maintainer of all the cows. He's declared because previously it was understood that actually Indra was the protector and maintainer ultimately. But now they've given that kingship to Krishna to take that role of being the Govinda and the proprietor of all the cows, Govinda. So this pastime takes place the day after the Anukut pastime. And this is very, and also the Brijbasis, after this pastime, they come to Nanda Baba. And they're thinking this was a remarkable act that took place. We think maybe your son is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they come to Nanda Baba. They actually come in Nandagaon. They all come to him there. And Nanda Baba, he just starts to laugh and laugh and laugh. The cowherd men are implying that Krishna is perhaps the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Nanda Baba, he holds his sides. He's laughing so much. He says, I understand that you cowherd men, you don't develop your proper teeth until you're about 80 years old. You're still having your childlike milk teeth there. In other words, you're very immature. How can this boy be God? He cries, he steals, he gets angry when he doesn't get what he wants, he lies all the time. How can this person, he what?
Stole the market.
Yeah, steals the butter, etc. How can he possibly be God? And Nanda Baba is laughing and laughing like this. And then it's described Yoga Maya, she again covers the Gopas to realize that actually he's not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's just a little Brijabasi boy in the village of Vrindavan. So this is a very, very beautiful pastime with many, many aspects to it. But the beauty of Krishna again is prominently brought forward in the hearts of the Brijbasis so that they can just relish his beauty and sweetness. Just like with all the different demonic influences that happen, at the end, Krishna is always the hero. He's always the one who's more loved and more affection is poured upon him by the Brijbasis. So this is very, very beautiful pastime. But this is the pastime that we hear in Anior. This is the village, this is the place where it took place, Anior or Anore. Anore. So this village is called Anore. This is the first place we've come. And this is when we're hearing something of this. I've said it very briefly. It's described in the 10th canto, I think it's the 26th, 27th chapter. There's 2 or 3 chapters describing the whole of this Govardhan pastime. It's tremendous pastime, absolutely beautiful pastime. We can all absorb ourselves in this today and tomorrow. And then our meditation on Govardhan as we're coming around on our parikrama will be very significant. So then we're just going to walk a little way now through Anior. And just around the side of Anior is all the water that fell from the top of Govardhan into one big Kund, which collected there called Govinda Kund. This is Govinda Kund that we've come to now, which collected all the waters from that Abhishek. And it's a really very, very beautiful Kund that we see today. It's quite remarkable. All these intoxicatingly beautiful structures of these various kunds in Vrindavan, they haven't become commercialized at all. They're exactly as they were practically thousands of years ago. Brajanaba, Krishna's great grandson, is the one who manifested these kunds. And he also, at this particular place of Govinda Kund, he manifested the very beautiful deity of Nataraj or Gopal, this beautiful Gopal deity. And this beautiful Gopal deity we glorify today because the personality um, in whose heart he was revealed and manifested him is none other than our beloved Madhavendra Puri. When we come to this Govinda Kund, we hear the pastime specifically of Madhavendra Puri. And there's Madhavendra Puri Pad's sitting place right here at this Kund. So we can sit here and we can hear something of the glories and specialities of Madhavendra Puri today. So Madhavendra Puri, we know, was the grand spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose disciple was Ishvara Puri. And Ishvara Puri is the guru of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I've described previously before how Madhavendra Puri is described as being the Prem Ankur. He's the bringer of the seed of Bhav to this world. This seed of Bhav had not manifested previously. There was only singular worship of the Aishwarya aspect of Krishna, basically prior to Madhavendra Puri. So Madhavendra Puri is like the forerunner to prepare the ground, to prepare the hearts for the advent of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Madhavendra Puri was exhibiting high stages of this spontaneous attraction to service to Radha and Krishna in his meditation. He was originally in the Madhava Sampradaya, the Brahma Madhva Sampradaya. So Madhavendra Puri, he would follow a vow called Ayachaka Vritti. This Ayachaka Vritti is a vow where he doesn't beg from anyone. He just waits until the Lord arranges for whatever foodstuffs he's supposed to have. He fasts all day, and if someone offers him anything in the evening, he'll take it. And if nobody does offer him anything, then he won't take anything. So it's a very austere vow. But Madhavendra Puri was not like a yogi. He was so much intoxicated in Krishna Prem, in his attraction and affection for Krishna, who he was seeing revealed in his heart constantly, that he could maintain a vow of this severity. And he came to Braj, and he was just fasting for maybe 3 days, it's described. And then on the third day, in the evening time, one young boy, beautiful, blackish cowherd boy, came with a pot of milk and said, "Oh, my mother, she saw that you were fasting, and the ladies in the well, they noticed that you hadn't taken anything for a couple of days. No one fasts in this kingdom. You accept this pot of milk, and you take this." So it's described that Madhavendra Puri, he was astonished by the beauty and sweetness of the voice of this child. And then that child just left the pot of milk. So Madhavendra Puri, he offered that milk in his mind, and then he took that milk, and he could not believe the extraordinary sweetness and fragrance and speciality of that milk. And then he realized, who was this person who came and gave me this milk? Maybe this was Krishna directly himself. And he became very enlivened by thinking like that. But the young boy had said, "I will come back and collect the pot later on." So Madhavendra Puri, he's staying awake. And then finally, towards the end of the night, he couldn't stay awake anymore. And he slept. And during that time when he was sleeping, Krishna came in his dream and said, "We are so happy that you've come finally. I've been lying in the bushes close by, waiting for you for many, many years. I'm waiting for you to come." The barbarian Muslim invaders. They were intimidating the local pujaris and brahmins that they put my body under the ground. They hid my body in the bushes. And then the brahmanas, they ran away and somehow they never returned. So this is hundreds of years they were away, in fact. And Krishna was just lying under the bushes. And in the dream, Krishna reveals exactly where the beautiful form of Krishna is lying. So Madhavendra Puri, he wakes up in the morning from that beautiful dream and realizes this is Krishna indicating to me where he's lying. And he came out and he got all the villagers to bring machetes, etc., because they had to go into the deep jungle. It was just very rough jungle, and go through to the exact place where Madhavendra Puri had it indicated to him. And then they dug just a little bit, and then they found this beautiful form of Gopal deity, or Nataji he's called also. And this beautiful form of Gopal just astonished all the villagers. They were totally entranced. Just a huge, beautiful, smiling face, beautiful lotus-like eyes, just everything about him was beautiful. So Madhavendra Puri very carefully took him out, 4 or 5 men, they carried him, and they put him on a stone and a couple of other stones to protect the sides, and they set up like an altar. Then immediately they started bathing him with lots of water from Manasi Ganga, from Jamuna Devi was brought. And then Madhavendra Puri felt inspired that we must feed Krishna nicely. He's been in the ground for so long. So then he ordered all the Brijbasis to make another Anukut festival. Just like the Anukut festival of 5,000 years ago for Giriraj Maharaj is now being performed for the lifter of Giriraj. Because Gopal is standing like this. This is his form. He's the lifter of Govardhan hill. So the villagers were so in ecstasy to do that. And they made mountains of prasadam to offer, boga, to offer to Gopal. And then word got around the whole of Braj. And for perhaps 30 or 40 days, all the different villages around, because the word spread very quickly amongst the pious Brijvasis, that Gopal has just manifested again. He was actually under the ground and being hidden from the Muslims, etc., from the Turks. And now he's being manifested again, raised again. So all the different villages, they all demanded they have one particular day, and they brought their cartloads, wagon loads of boga to offer to Gopal. And there was great festivity, and Gopal's body was bathed regularly, daily, until it was shining, glossy. So this pastime, and then one wealthy merchant from Mathura, he arrived and began to build a construction to house. This was on the top of Giriraj. This is the white building. When you're walking by, you can see there's a temple on the top of Giriraj. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advented, and when he came here, almost 100 years later or 80 years later, the mood of honor for Giriraj had actually subsided. They weren't worshipping Giriraj as much as they had been previously. Not even Radha Kund and Shama Kund were manifest. They called them Gauri Ket and Sham Ket, these two buffalo holes. So the whole reverence towards Giriraj Maharaj had actually diminished because the devotion hadn't been propagated sufficiently. So Mahaprabhu, he wanted to substantiate the worship and reverence towards Giriraj Maharaj. So Mahaprabhu, he never stepped onto Giriraj Maharaj. So he established that principle of respect for Govardhan. If everyone was just walking backwards and forwards, they wouldn't hold that same sort of respect. So Mahaprabhu, he initiated that idea, and at that time Mahaprabhu wanted to see that Gopal deity in the temple, and at that time Gopal manifested a pastime where again the Muslims were threatening. So the pujari, he brought the deity down and kept the deity in a place near Mathura. And many of the Brijbasis would come and have darshan, and Mahaprabhu was able to have darshan of that Gopal deity for about 4 or 5 days, and then they took the Gopal deity back on the top. But now that Gopal deity is in Natwa. That's where he resides today, that original deity. But there's a beautiful Pratibhu deity there that we can see beside Madhavendra Puri. So this is the pastime at Govinda Kund. So close by here also, so many pastimes today. And then of course there's the rest of the pastime where Madhavendra Puri goes to Remuna and he comes back. He goes to Puri to get the chandan, and he puts the chandan on the body of that Kirchor Gopinath in Ramuna, and that satisfies the Gopal deity. So he's cooled, his body is cooled. That's the second part. This is all described in Madhya Lila, chapter 4 of Chaitanya Charitamrita, the most blissful pastime of Madhavendra Puri and his devotion to Nathaji, to Gopal. So now, coming from Govinda Kund, almost exactly adjacent to Govinda Kund, is Gauri Kund, the Kunj of Chandravali. Chandravali's Kunj is there, very, very beautiful, small place where Krishna sometimes would be attracted to pastimes with Chandravali. Chandravali's father is Chandrabhanu, who is the brother of Rishabhanu Maharaj. Therefore, Radha and Krishna Krishna, Radha and Chandravali are related, without a doubt. But Krishna, for the pastime's sake, there has to be an opposition party. If there's no opposition, then the main party can't really flourish in the same way. Just like in governments today, we have an opposition party. So Chandravali represents that opposition party, and Chandravali is almost as beautiful as Radha. She's not as beautiful as Radha, but she's almost as beautiful. But she has so much prem for Krishna, even though she knows that Krishna is attracted more to Radhika, but it doesn't diminish her prem for Krishna. And she has Saiva and Padma, her two supporters, Sakhis, and they're always trying to hijack Krishna into Gauri Kund. And sometimes Krishna comes there and he will enjoy with Chandravali. And then many times in the adventures of Radha and Krishna, then the Sakhis of Radha, the Swapaksh, they will make an arrangement to somehow get Krishna out of the hands of Chandravali. Perhaps Rupa Manjari will suddenly run into the Kunj of Gauri Kund and say, oh, this bull demon, he's harassing your cows. Your favorite bull is being attacked by Aristasura. You have to come quick. Krishna immediately jumps up and says to Chandravali, just wait a few minutes. I'm coming right back. I'm just going to deal with this. Then he comes away, and then immediately Rupa Manjari starts chastising Krishna. Why did you go there? And then Krishna says, oh, I just got lost on the path, you know. It wasn't my fault. Krishna always is the innocent. Anyway, then he goes to spend time with Radhika. But without this opposition, then Radhika can't express her man. I've said many times, how can Radharani express this remarkable condition of man if Chandravali doesn't exist? Because this man is giving Krishna a chance to serve Sri Radhika. When Radhika goes into man, Krishna loves to serve. And when she goes into a high state of man, Krishna has to roll his sleeves up and really serve Radhika to again get her connection, her blessings, etc. He can't connect with Radhika in this mood of man. This mood of from man, it will lead to pranaya, and then rag, and then mahabhava, etc. So it's a principal ingredient in the whole evolution of the conjugal pastimes to come to the stage of Mahabhav. So Chandravali is so necessary for that purpose. So never minimize the importance of Chandravali. She's very much essential in the pastimes. Without the vipaksh, how can we have the swapaksh? How can we have the favorable side? So Chandravali's Kund is here at Gauri Kunj, and it's just right next to Govinda Kund, just opposite there. And we can go and we can remember, we can honor Chandravali, but we never are near the camp of Chandravali. There's the story of Raghunath Das when he would take his buttermilk every day in a small little leaf cup. And one day his servant brought a large leaf cup. And Raghunath is saying, "Where did you get this leaf cup from?" And he says, "Oh, from Gauri Kund, from Sakhi Kund." And Raghunath became so angry. He just picked up a stick and he chased that servant. You know, I will never take anything from that Sakhi Kund. I will never take anything from that Gauri Kund. So we have that sort of mood that we can visit and we can offer respects, but we don't have any mamata for that because that is the mood. But we have to know all the different intricacies of the pastime dynamics that go on because they're full of politics. And these politics are what excite. This is the dynamic of the pastimes, of the meeting and the separation, etc. They only go on for this reason. They only stay intense and beautiful for those um, uh, intrigues that are going on amongst the gopis. Every day, there's 1,000 different intrigues amongst all the gopis going on. And it's all deliberately intensifying their attraction to Krishna, ultimately. That's what it's all about. So now we come from Govinda Kund and we walk along now it's like a pathway, a stone pathway, right beside, we're on the inside trail, walking around Govardhan. And we're right next to the beautiful side of Govardhan. And I described yesterday at Chandra Sarovar, that place where Baladev is crouching down, watching the Ras Leela, and he's become stunned. And Krishna, he comes in the morning and he just pushes this blackish, stunned Baladev, and his crown falls off. So we walk past that place by a tree, and there's a rock, and you can see the impression of Baladev's mukut is there in the rock, impressed. And then we come past there, and we come past some beautiful gardens, and there's kunds. Actually, there are thousands of kunds around Govardhan, but most of them have become covered over now. But there's a few kunds that remain. So as we continue our journey south, we'll see a hill, looks like almost like a fortress on our left. And there is Lord Nrsingadev. He's within that fortress he manifested there. And this beautiful pastimes. We can actually go up there and we can see from that location, you can see the whole of Giriraj. You get a bird's eye view of the whole of Giriraj. But Lord Nrsingadev is there, very beautiful form. And the pujari is always very accommodating, and he'll lift the skirts up of the Thakurji there, and you'll see Nrsingadev bifurcating Hiranyakashipu on his lap. So that's a very beautiful deity that we can go and see. But just coming down from there, we come to the most beautiful Naval Kund and Apsara Kund. I've got two pictures here, but it's too much of a drama. But we will post them on our WhatsApp of Naval Kund and Apsara Kund. Naval Kund represents Krishna, and Apsara Kund represents Sri Radhika. And these two kunds, it's described, were manifested from the hearts of the melted hearts of the two young lovers melting together in great affection in prem. In this Kund, Apsara Kund, is described, there are always 24 manifestations of the avatars sitting around this Kund in worship of this Kund. Matsya avatar is there, Kurma avatar is there. All the different avatars are sitting around this Kund, Apsara Kund. It's a beautiful Kund. Many hundreds of years ago, not even hundreds of years ago, actually maybe 80, 90 years ago, this whole area was filled with very, very tall kadamba trees. And I can remember even 40 years ago, there were big kadamba trees in this area. And unfortunately, what the Brijbasis do when they find a big, big old tree, they put a concrete slab around it. And that just kills the tree because the tree doesn't have the proper air um, circulation because the concrete slab is sitting on top of its roots. So they did this to one beautiful tree at Apsara Kund, and a few years later, the whole tree fell down in Apsara Kund. And today, I think even some branches are there of that tree. But they were beautiful kadamba trees. So then we take some archaman from these kunds and realizing as we're doing this, that these kunds are soaked in the pastimes directly of Radha and Krishna and the Sakis, etc., the Brijbasis. So all the environment is completely sacred and pure all around us. So the sadhak, the yatri doing the parikrama, is always conscious of the speciality of all of these holy places. And then we come through from Apsara Kund and we come into the Rasastali arena place, which also had so many trees previously. Now they've just recently built two big ashrams there. Originally there was just one small Babaji temple, but now they have two big ashrams. Everything is being covered. In Vrindavan, gradually, as the age of Kali decreases, then gradually everything becomes covered over. So all the natural beauty is becoming covered by the idea of economic development, building an ashram to, support the yatris, but at the same time, it gives money to the proprietors and so on. So at this place was a Rasa Leela was performed here. Again, this was a Vasant Leela. This is like the springtime Leela, when it's only the Priya Sakis, Priya Nam Sakis were performing the pastimes there. It wasn't the Maharas of all the gopis. And this was an intoxicatingly beautiful Ras Leela place where Krishna would perform. Many times the Ras Leela was performed in this particular place. So when we pray in the dust of this place, we should appreciate, like I just was saying, that the dust is like the eternal aspect of Vrindavan. Always when we can get the dust on our bodies, we should realize we're touching with the real eternal Vrindavan. And just behind this Rasastali is the cave of Raghava Pandit. Raghava Pandit, that great personality from Navadvip, lived with his sister here near Panihati, with Damayanti, his sister, Raghava Pandit. And in later years, he came to Govardhan to perform his bhajan. And traditionally, many of the sadhus, they will dig under the ground because it's so hot in summer. And it's called a gufa. They would make like a place where they could meditate comfortably under the ground. There's a beautiful one in Gokul also. Sanatan Goswami had his gufa there. And you can go and see that. Many gufas, especially in Uchagaon, in Guchgaon of Narayan Bhatta Goswami. He had an underground gufa also. So now they've blocked off most of it because it became dangerous for people. They would fall in there. Because now so many thousands of somewhat unqualified people are visiting because they've heard that you can get some benediction or something. So they come for some material benediction. So they're not super qualified. They drive down in droves from Delhi, etc., every weekend and perform parikrama and so on, always praying for some material benediction, etc. So they blocked off most of that Raghava. Raghava Pandit, under the instruction of Jiva Goswami, he took Srinivasacharya and Narottam on parikrama of all Govardhan. This is all described in Bhakti Ratnakara, this beautiful book by Narahari Chakravarti, describing the pastimes of Giriraj Maharaj. This is another beautiful book describing all the pastimes of Giriraja, this Bhakti Ratnakara by Narahari Chakravarti. So then we come past this Raghava Pandit and the Rasastali, and now we come again to this is the western side because we've come around Puchuri. Puchuri is like the tail end. Actually, if you look at the shape of Giriraj, you can see him in two ways. You can see him like a cow with his head into the stomach, or you can see him like a peacock in the shape of a peacock. Either way, you can imagine Giriraj to be manifesting that way. So he, so this is like Puchuri. This is the tail. Puchuri means tail. It's the end of Giriraj. So we've come down the eastern side from Govardhan, and now we've turned around the corner and we're traveling up the western side of Govardhan. And it has a different texture to the rocks, etc. You'll see they're very smooth on the western side. On the eastern side, they're more rugged. And if we're lucky, we might see some nilgai, these beautiful, they're not cows and they're not horses and they're not deer. They're a mix between the three. And they're very elusive creatures. And they're very beautiful because they're totally wild. They can't be contained for anything. So they just roam around. And it's described, if you see some of these, this is very auspicious. Sometimes you might even see a whole family of them. It's very wonderful. And because they're like wild creatures, there's a certain astonishment when you see them. There's a certain beautiful attraction. Anyway, they're all in this area here. And of course, thousands and millions of monkeys. The monkeys populate because the tourists, they feed them bananas. Monkeys have no predators. So the monkeys are just populating like crazy. Anyway, so then we come past here holding our breath. There's a monkey mantra that we all have to learn from the very beginning, because we have Hanumanji at the very beginning I described in Dan Gati, this huge orange form of Hanuman. There's this mantra to Hanuman, Om Hrim Hanumate Namaha. Om Hrim Hanumate Namaha. 4 words, that's all. If you chant this monkey mantra, the monkeys will never, ever, ever harm you. Om Hrim Hanumate Namaha. I can remember sometimes walking through thousands of monkeys with no stick, nothing, bare feet, and being a little bit shy inside, but I would chant this mantra very loudly and never, of course you can chant Radhe, 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 no problem, same effect, but Om Hrim Hanumate is a specific one for the monkeys. So then we come through the Rasastali after Raghava Pandit, and we come to Surabhi Kunj. Surabhi Kunj is almost identical on the other side from Govinda Kund. Govardhan itself is very thin. If we look at the drone pictures of Govardhan, she's very narrow in the middle, very narrow. It will take you like 3 steps and you've crossed the pinnacle of Govardhan. Previously, she was like 40 miles wide. Now she's just like 20 yards wide at the pinnacle. So we come through and there's a beautiful Baladev temple where I described when Baladev dropped his mukit on the other side. So we see that replicated on this side. And then we come through to Surabhi Kunj, and that's completely adjacent to Govinda Kund on the other side. And we see Surabhi Kund today has all been renovated beautifully. Previously it was very dilapidated, but now it's beautiful. So Surabhi Devi, she eternally resides there. That eternal personality from Golok, she has actually manifested here through the pastime performance of this earthly Surabhi Devi who came from Swaga. Then she's manifested there in Surabhi Kunj. And this is where we are residing here, because there's a follow-up story to Indra wasn't feeling completely satisfied by being forgiven by Krishna in Govardhan, so he comes to Navadvip. And in Navadvip, he also he comes with Surabhi Devi to Navadvip. And again, he petitions Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he hears Mahaprabhu is much more merciful even than Krishna. And they perform austerities here, and Mahaprabhu manifests here, and Indradev feels forgiven for his offense that he wasn't fully forgiven for in Govardhan. So that pastime takes place here. But this Surabhi Kunj is there today, and is a very beautiful sarovar. And generally on our parikrama, we take our breakfast there. We've walked quite quickly from early morning, from 6 o'clock, through all these different places, and we've heard a multitude of pastimes as we're coming through. And then we come around the western side to Surabhi Kunj. And here we traditionally take Malpura and khichdi, hot spicy sabji, because a very nice Brijbasi family, they always provide in service to my Gurudev. They're Gurudev, my Gurudev disciples, and they would serve the Parikrama party. Thousands of, we would usually have about 2,500, 3,000 people in our Parikrama party here, where we would come, and my Gurudev would always come to Surabhi Kunj, even when he was quite elderly at the end. He would come there and speak for some time and glorify Surabhi Devi, glorify Giriraj Govardhan, glorify the pastimes. And then from Surabhi Kunj, we'd all sort of start to walk quite briefly back to Govardhan. But on the way, we come to the township of Jetipur. Jetipur, a jetty in Hindi means sannyasi, right? Jetty, Jetipur is the place of the sannyasi Madhavendra Puri, because just on the other side from Jetipur, more or less adjacent, is Govinda Kund. So as I described, Govardhan is very narrow. So Madhavendra Puri would be on both sides of the hill, and Gopal was actually on the top of the hill. So they would serve him from both villages, from where Govinda Kund is and where Jetipur is today. But in Jetipur, when we approach Jetipur, what can we smell? Rotten milk. Because there they are performing daily with thousands and thousands of liters Abhishek of Krishna there. This is like considered the mouth. If Govardhan is in the shape of a cow, this is where he's turned his neck and mouth around. This is like his stomach. So in that place, he's worshipped there. That is called Shringarastali. That's Shringarastali. And if we come through there, we'll see that every single time we come through there, there's always someone who's pouring milk on the form of Govardhan itself, right onto the hill itself. And there's canals there, canals, and they're taking the milk, and the dogs are getting very fat from drinking the milk that are there. But that's when we can perform ourselves. You can buy a little plastic cup of milk and you can pour the Abhishek directly of Giriraj Maharaj. And he loves that. Giriraj or Girirani, however we perceive him. And then from Jetipur, then we start our walk back to Govardhan. And on the way, on the right-hand side, is Rudra Kund. Rudra Kund today is practically like fallen apart. There's not much left. But previously, even 20 years ago, it was a very, very beautiful Kund, nicely kept with many creepers and flowering bushes and so on, were there, and beautiful shady trees. And this is where Rudradev, he comes. Rudradev, Shivji, he's everywhere, all over Braj. It's described there are actually 350 forests in the whole of Braj. This includes the upavans, as well as the main forest, there's secondary forest, etc. So altogether, there's 350 forests. And in every single forest, there's a Shiva Lingam of Shivji. In Mathura, he's Bhuteshwar. In Kamyavan, he's Kameshwar. In Govardhan, he's Chakaleshwara. In, where else are they? Oh, in Nandagaon, he's Nandeshwar. Yes, everywhere. In Vrindavan, he's Gopeshwar. Everywhere Lord Shiva is there. Vaishnavam Yata Shambhu. Shivji is the greatest devotee of Krishna. So we have this beautiful Rudrakund that we can stop at. If you have a lot of time, if you have the whole day just to slowly walk around Govardhan, you can actually stop in all of these very secret, beautiful kunds that are remaining today. That generally on the Parikrama, people, they are, concerned with their bodily functions of eating, etc., and just trying to do a quick Parikrama. But if we do a slow Parikrama, we can stop at all these different intoxicatingly beautiful places on the way back, and remembering Krishna's pastimes in every place. So Shivji, he's the Ketrapal we described. He will keep anyone out of Vrindavan consciousness that he sees is not qualified is going to create a disturbance for Krishna. So somehow or other, he will keep them out of Braj. But those who are sincere and qualified, he will give entrance very easily to any of those sincere sadhaks who want to spend time in Braj. So Shivji is everywhere, throughout. And tomorrow, when we do our little inner parikrama of Manasi Ganga, we'll see Shivji is there at Chakaleshwar, and we'll talk about Shivji there tomorrow. So then from here, from Rudrakund, then we keep going on. If we stay on the inside, we come through a beautiful forest, cultivated by farmers, watered, etc. Forest trail, very soft sand. You can walk all the way through, and it brings us to the village of Govardhan. Then we come into the village of Govardhan, and we go to the left because we're still circumambulating, and then we can come to the natural path that cuts through Govardhan. There's a natural gully that cuts through Govardhan. You know, there's the one that was sort of bulldozed through to allow buses and so on to come through, but there is a natural trail through Govardhan. And if you just walk past the village, you'll come to that trail, and it'll bring us right back to where we started from. And it'll bring us right around close to the Giriraj Gaudiya Math, Giridhari Gaudiya Math. So we've been right the way around. There are many, many places that I've missed out. I've spoken very brief about all these places, but there were so many places to go to today. But it's a very, we haven't gone there yet. We're just doing the small Parikrama. You want to do the full Parikrama? Half Parikrama is enough for one day. Before we would always do the full Parikrama. We're going to go right around, that's a long way more. That's a couple of 3 or 4 days up. We'll go on the northern end to Uddhav Kund, Shama Kund, Radha Kund, Kusum Sarovar, those places in the north. And then we'll even come on another day and do the very small places when you come from Kusum Sarovar back to Govardhan. So I've covered quite a few places, and I just want to share a pastime that there was one devotee shared with me the other day. They told me how 1 year they couldn't come on Govardhan Parikrama. They couldn't come to Vrindavan Parikrama. So they were determined to perform a really dedicated Manasi Seva Parikrama. And every day of the Vraja-mandala Parikrama, they would come to Vrindavan in their consciousnesses. And then the following year, that devotee came to Vrindavan and was with Gurudev, my Gurudev, in a group. And Gurudev said, "Oh, I saw you last year in Vrindavan." And they said, "But I never came. I never came to it." And my Guru said, "Yes, I saw you here. I saw you last year." And they said, Gurudev was saying again and again, and this person was saying, "But I never came." And Gurudev was insistent that he saw them there in Vrindavan. So that person's faith just became really strong. So Manasi Parikrama is a fact, is a genuine reciprocation with the Dham, and Krishna will reciprocate with the devotee, 100%. There was another devotee that I knew who was doing a Christmas marathon many, many, many years ago in ISKCON, and he was deciding that one particular day he'd do a Govardhan Parikrama in his mind during the whole day's distribution. At the end of the day, he found that he had some rupees amongst his collection, and he was completely amazed, you know. So don't doubt that Manasi Parikrama is real. If we have come today to Govardhan, if I've been able to describe anything significantly that's prompted a memory in you, that you've remembered from the different descriptions of the south end, not the north end, the south end, past, first of all, Dan Ghati, then Dan Nivartan Kund. That's where the big Hanuman Murti is on the side of the road, and then down from there, come to Anior, and we remember that beautiful pastime there, and then we come to Govinda Kund, and remember Madhavendra Puri part, and we remember the Abhishek that Indra performed to Krishna, trying to be forgiven for his horrendous act of trying to murder Krishna, and then coming to Puri. And in Puri we see Lord Nrsingadev, and we see Naval Kund and Apsara Kund, and then we come around and we see the Rasastali and Raghava Pandit's cave, and then we come to Rudra Kund, and then we come to Surabhi Kunj and Jetipur, and finally we come back to Govardhan. So that's where we've come today. So Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gauda Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Vanshakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha.
Thank you.
You were going to say something?
Namam Ishwaram Sachidanandalupam Rasat Kundalam Gokule Rajamanam Yashodabiyolukalagammanam Param Risham Atyantato Ruchagopya Yudantamurnetra Yudman Rijantam Karam Bodha Yugmena Satanganekam Muhoswasakam Patri Ekankakanta Sita Gadadamodara Bhaktivadam Uchitrishalila Virananda Kunde Swadoshamima Jantam Adhyapayam Pradiyashitageshu Bhakti-citatvam Purna Prematastam Sadam Divande Varandeva Moksham Va Mokshabhadingva Nacham Yamrineham Varishadapiya Ikam Teva Purnata Gopalavalam Sadananasya Virasyamunakari Ikam Tenu Brahmojam Avyaktanilai Ikam Pranayas Nidharatasthadokya Mukhostamikam Bimba Lakshadaranne Namo Deva Damodarananta Vishnu Prasida Prabhu Jagadabhiratnam Vipadrishi Vrishyati Dinam Bhatanu Yuhanishwamam Nagam Vedakshirishna Kuvervajobhadya Mutyai Vayadvat Vayamahito Bhakti Gajo Kritocha Sena Bhaktim Swakame Prayacha Namaksharame Siddhamodareha Namaste Sudhane Sudhamne Vadiyodayata Vishwasudhamne Namoradvikaya Tvariya Priyaya Namo Nagamilaya Devaya Tulyam Namo Radhikaya Tvariya Priyaya Namo Madhavendra Devaya Tuvyam. Jaya Damodara Jaya Damodara Jaya Damodara Jaya Damodara
Damodara Jaya Damodara Damodara Jaya Damodara
Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radha
Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe
Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe
Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya
Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Krishna
Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Krishna Jaya Shri
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare
Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva
Jaya
Jaya
Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Haribo
Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Haribo
Nitai Gaura Haribo Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo
Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Gaura Haribo Shri Gurudev ki jai Giriraj Maharaj ki jai Girirani Maharani ki jai Vraja-mandala Parikrama 2023 ki jai Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bol Vanshakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha Hare